the first podcast I flew out for.
I'm honored.
Did you always have big dreams and this vision, your reality right now, did you have that back then?
What's possible for somebody is also possible for me. And for whatever reason, I think my parents had a lot to do with it. You know, if I said I wanted to be a professional athlete, they're like, cool, you can do it. Just got to work hard and practice and, keep following your dreams. And so I've had this belief from a very young age that if somebody else had done it, I could do it too.
Do you have an example early on? Hey, KB, we had an issue, right? I sat there and we manifested. Anything comes to your mind in that sense?
I just got really clear on what it is that I wanted, right? And I think a lot of people vague about their desire. They want to succeed. They want to make more money. But for me, part of the deal was getting very, very, very clear on what I actually wanted.
Look at me, habibi. Dubai Jeep, let's get it. Look at me, habibi. Dubai Jeep, let's get it. Bags, expensive.
Don't touch me. Back it up, back it up, back it up, back it up. No, I have to back it up, back it up, back it up, back it up.
Welcome to another episode of Circle Success Podcast. It's your favorite host, KB. Today, I'm with a very special person. If you know me personally, you know I've been looking forward to this interview for many, many, many months. We tried this in Orlando, didn't work out. I flew out to Arizona personally to do this face-to-face. This individual in front of me, story is amazing. From NFL to now entrepreneurship, his ups and downs truly impacted my life. Not only my life, my wife's and my life. Today, I want to welcome John Madsen from Superhuman.
Amazing, man. Thanks for having me.
John, thank you for coming on here, man.
Yeah.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Thanks for flying into Scottsdale. I know we did try to do this in Orlando, but, things work out how they work out. So I'm happy to be here.
Yes. So, fun fact, this is the first podcast I flew out for.
I'm honored.
And, I'm honored for you to give me your time. Again, for the camera, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a newer entrepreneur. I'm 43 years old. I suffered a stroke. I shared with you my email. Almost lost my life and found entrepreneurship, found law of attraction manifestation. I came across your story. The funny thing is your ads are insanely cool, man. Like very direct. And that was the first time we connected on digitally. And as you started to share your story, your mindset development, how you went from want to go play basketball and end up being NFL to opening your gym, marrying a news reporter, executive, now have a beautiful daughter and it's empire. So I want to get into it, my friend. Where are you from?
Yeah, I grew up in West Valley City, which is a small suburb on the poor side of what's considered Salt Lake City. So I grew up, my parents are my two best friends. My dad was a blue-collar worker my whole life. I remember him getting up at 4 a.m, going to work, doing his thing so that he could be back at 4 p.m. to coach me in all the sports. And so I had a childhood where, to me, I had everything. Looking back, I know what a strain it was for my parents to, make it seem like everything was always there. And, so I'd consider a middle-class family with blue-collar work ethic. And I just had an ambition from a really young age to, go out in the world and make my mark on it.
You weren't raising money. Okay. So based on what you have taught me virtually to your DMs, your social media, what William has taught me through his podcast, our childhood plays a big role in the development of our subconscious mind and our mindset. So you weren't born with this thing that I'm going to be a British guy, or were you? Did you always have big dreams and this vision? Your reality right now, did you have that back then?
I think that people have three beliefs. One belief is that it's not possible. So, a lot of people, they have a goal or someone tells them that they should do something, it's not possible. And the second belief is it's possible, but it's not possible for me. So it might be it's possible for you, but it's not possible for me. And I think a lot of people fundamentally operate with that belief system, other than something like Elon Musk, for example, believes that he can take a rocket ship to Mars and build a civilization there. To me, that would be something to be like, that's not possible, right? But for the most part, everything that we want to do has already been done by somebody. And so the third belief is what's possible for somebody is also possible for me. And for whatever reason, I think my parents had a lot to do with it. You know, if I said I wanted to be a professional athlete, they're like, cool, you can do it. Just got to work hard and practice and, you know, keep following your dreams. And so I've had this belief from a very young age that if somebody else had done it, I could do it too. So for an example, I was obsessed with sports. I'd watch, you know, the NBA games on TV, NFL games, Major League Baseball games. I was a sports fanatic. And to me, I just watch other men playing on TV, playing on ESPN, and they were people, and I'm a human being. They somehow could do it. And so therefore my belief was I could do it too. The percentages of how many people really make it and all that stuff, it really didn't apply to me because in my mind, somebody's got to do it and it might as well be me. And so I think I've had that belief instilled in from a very young age. And then it's a positive feedback loop, right? If I told somebody I was going to be a professional athlete at 7 years old and 8 years old and 9 years old, and I end up doing it despite never playing football in high school and making it to the NFL and scoring a couple touchdowns, I can draw back on that experience and think back to like the imagery and visualization that I used to have as becoming a professional athlete and then creating it in my life. And so when you go to start a business, I think that once you do that a couple times and you do it more and more, then all of a sudden everything is possible. And that's where I operate today. But I think that for the listener, it's important to consider if they're thinking about their goals or what they want to do, if they really believe it's possible for them. Because if they don't, they're going to prove themselves right.
Either one, right? It was not Tom Ford. Henry Ford said it. If you believe you can do it, you will. And if you believe you can't do it, you also not do it, right?
Yep.
All right. So, athlete growing up, your dad is mentioned quite a bit in your story.
Mm-hmm.
Quite a bit. You very close?
Very close. He's the best man at my wedding.
Wow. Wow. And I'm going to get to a second where you kind of left him, Utah, to come here.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that in a keynote you did, and I sent you that video. We'll circle back to a second. Mom and dad, you have a big family?
No, small family, have a sister, me, mom, dad. Extended family's all in Utah, though.
Got it. High school, athlete?
Yeah, I was an athlete from, my earliest memory, honestly, I was thinking about this. My earliest memory is sitting at the dinner table, and my grandpa was there, my parents were there, and I just got done with a t-ball game. And so I had to be like 5 years old. And when you play t-ball, nobody's keeping score, right? It's like, it's for fun. You're just learning how to play the game. And I took it so serious that in my head, I was keeping score. And so I remember reciting, like we won, 15-3 or whatever the score was. Like I'm keeping score in my head as a 5-year-old. And if I think back to like my earliest memory, like that's number one. And then my second memory that I remember is walking into the school I actually went to junior high at, but I was young and there was baseball signups. And my dad signed me up for baseball like 2 years before my age was supposed to play in that league. And I remember, walking in, holding his hand, signing up, and then being a little bit afraid. And my dad telling me that, no, son, you can do it. Like, it's going to be fine, And I think back and it's like, that's how much sports was ingrained in my life, because my two earliest memories of being alive both revolve around memories playing a sport. So very much a part of my life. And I played it all. I played basketball, I played baseball, I played football, I played tennis, I played golf. I loved to go bowling. It didn't matter. Like if it was competition and it was something to do with athleticism, I thrived. I loved it. Ironically, though, when I got to high school, I knew that I couldn't play 6 sports in high school. Like you got to kind of choose, the path of, maybe least resistance. And at the time, football was, I stopped playing football as a sophomore. So I never played a down of high school football, focused on basketball and baseball, but then ended up walking onto a football team in junior college and then transferring to the University of Utah, playing for Urban Meyer, and then ultimately playing 3 years in the National Football League and living out a childhood dream. So sports was a part of my life from the earliest memory all the way until I was 27 years old and found myself cut and on a plane back home. And then I had to figure out what to do with the second part of my life.
Going back a second. So I'm born to a single mom, Brooklyn, New York, no money. And Brooklyn in the 80s was really rough. So my mom was already fearful for letting me go outside to play sports. So hence, therefore, I never really got to be in sports. I feel that held me back for many, 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 many years. Because when you play sports, you get hurt, you have a team, you learn how to play with different personalities. You run a company. I'm sure you have. I saw your trainers. I saw the interview you did over here with your trainer, like different personality. Your wife has different personality.
Mm-hmm.
You learn, and correct me if I'm wrong, you learn how to play, quote unquote, to get to a goal. Is that true?
Yeah, I think sports has such great carryover into life, and I do believe that, you know, having that opportunity as a kid is very beneficial because there are different kinds of sports. You're right. Like there's the teamwork aspect, right? And there's also sports like tennis, for example, where we won like 5 state championships through Little League tennis from what's considered a very poor part of Utah. Tennis is usually not a poor part of any states, like Maine, usually you play basketball or baseball or football. But my mom was the coach. And so my mom I remember my dad had this like F-150 truck with, back in the day they had like the shells and then carpet kits in the back so that she'd load up the neighborhood kids. And tennis was like all of our third sport. It was like basketball, baseball, football, then tennis. And all summer, she'd pick us up. We'd be at the tennis courts at 7 a.m. and we'd practice for 2 hours. And then we'd drive to these tennis meets, and we'd have to drive to the east side of the state, which, there's the country clubs, and we'd show up in like Nike mesh shorts and tank tops and our tennis rackets. And we'd be playing kids in their little polo shirts, and they're all it's funny because that's now we're members of 2 country clubs. My daughter is.
I can imagine.
Yeah. And so anyways, though, I remember winning state championships because we practiced our butts off. And playing doubles versus singles is a completely different thing. Like I at a certain point was restricted from playing doubles because if I'm playing with a partner and, the partner's messing up, like there's conflict, right? And so playing sports, you have a different psychology depending on the different sport, and I got to play it all. So in tennis, if you're playing singles, it's you out there. There's nobody to blame but you, right? And when I was younger, sometimes I would blame my tennis racket, right? So it's like I miss a shot and slam my tennis racket down. And so you have to learn these lessons, and at a certain point, like a sport like that is a way different psychological game than playing football, where you can have an epic game, but if the rest of your team doesn't play well, you're probably not going to win that game. And so there's that aspect of teamwork. And so I just think that it's wildly important and was super beneficial for me to play all of the sports. So I got the singular ones, golf and tennis, where I had to deal with the demons in my head. And then I also had the teamwork ones where you have to learn to be a leader. You have to learn to be you have to learn how to communicate with teammates to get not only your best, but their best. And I take a lot of that mentality, especially at the higher levels, playing for championship teams. Under Urban Meyer, we won 2 championships. And then also playing for the Raiders, where we were not very good. My rookie year, we went 10-14. My next year, we went 4-12. My next year, we went 4-12. So very bad football teams. And I got to see a variety of head coaches and how they ran the organization and the differences between championship culture and toxic culture. And when I started to build this business, a lot of my experience in sports, I carry over into building a business, because a championship team, whether it's on the field or in, the corporate world, wins championships. And a lot of that has to do with the mindset of the leaders and the culture that they build. And so I've had phenomenal examples of what to do, and I've had phenomenal examples of what not to do.
Your daughter, what's her name, by the way?
Jasmine.
Jasmine, is she gonna do sports?
Yeah, so, another interesting part of my life is after I got released, the first thing that I did is I opened up a performance center in Salt Lake City, Utah, and trained thousands of athletes. And most of those athletes were junior high kids, high school kids, a lot of college athletes, and then pros later on. But I got to see how parents parent in a different light. And me having played at the highest level, I started to see really quickly that most parents want it more than the kids. And so the parents were writing the checks. The parents are, telling me how great their son or daughter was. And really instantly, objectively as a coach, I could tell that the kid actually doesn't really want to be there. He just wants to make dad proud, right? And so when my daughter started to get to the age where we put her in flag football, and I coach her in flag football. She does tennis. It's not at the moment her favorite sport, but she does it, and she does like equestrian stuff with horses, and she loves art. And so now she's 7, and we kind of put her in different things to just see how she wants to do it. And I don't care whether she wants to be an equestrian or whether she wants to be the best flag football player, or if she's like, I just want to do my art thing and do art. Doesn't matter to me. I just think it's important for the kid to find what they're interested in, and then the parents to do everything in their path, in their power, to kind of open up that path and give their son or daughters the opportunity to succeed. Because at the end of the day, like when I was playing sports as a kid, my mom and dad never had to beg me to go to practice. They were never pulling me out, say, John, you got to go to practice today. I was pulling them out of the house. I was like, we got to go to football practice. We got to go to baseball practice. I loved it. And so when I was a coach, I saw how very few athletes actually were that. And most of the kids were just kind of passing the time and, doing it for mom or dad. So as a parent, I just want my daughter to succeed in what she wants to succeed at, and I'll do everything in my power to kind of do what I can to help her out.
That's amazing.
But she's got to do it.
She has to do it.
Yep.
You can't do it for her.
Can't do it for her.
Buddy, this interesting story. I was talking to my buddies about you, how you were a basketball player and even football. And they're all athletes, my friends from New York. I'm like, is that common? But I know football and baseball, Bo Jackson, right? And Deion Sanders, football and baseball. But basketball and football, and my buddy's like, listen, it doesn't matter. You look up your height. You're that height where you can do both. Very unique.
Yeah.
Right? So how was that? Like, what that mindset shift when you went to the coach and said, hey, we're not hiring for basketball. Like, talk to the football coach across. How was that for you, that transition?
Yeah, so I played football from the time I was 10 until I was 15 years old. And so I was always one of the best athletes on that football team. So it wasn't like I never picked up a football. I had a background in Little League football, but when I got to high school, the first thing that we had to do was go to summer conditioning. And in summer conditioning, we had to lift weights. It was the first time that I ever had to, touch a weight in my life. And I remember going to the very first session, and then the coach telling us that we had to max out on bench press, squat, deadlift, and power clean. And I was like, well, power clean looks dangerous. Squat looks like I've never done it before. Let's go over to the bench press. So me and like 4 of my friends went over to the bench press, and we're trying to find our 1 rep max, because that was what was, that's what we were supposed to do. And so we throw on 25-pound plates on each side of an Olympic bar, which is 95 pounds, not very heavy for a sophomore. And all my friends, you lift it off and they pump it out a couple times, then they're going to add more weight to see how much that they could lift. When it came to my turn, when everybody else was warming up, they pulled that bar off with 95 pounds, and it crushes my chest. And it literally pinned me on the bench press, and my friends are laughing. They have to pull the bar off of me. And in that moment, I realized, I look around and I see a bunch of kids that were, seniors, and, they got muscles, and some of them have beards. And I'm like, damn, like I'm the weakest kid in here. I'm not going to play football this year. Like, I got to get strong. And so I went home and told my dad that I wasn't going to play football. And, at that point, that was a hard conversation, because, I had a lot of friends on that football team from 10 years old to 15 where, football was a part of my life. And I told my dad what happened, and I said, Dad, but I want to get strong. Can you help me? And so we had a little bench press set that, he bought for our house. And for the first couple months, like I went to town on that bench press set with my dad and got a little bit stronger. And then he's like, son, this isn't my expertise. Let's go down to the fitness center and I'll try to get you a coach. And there was this guy, his name was Mike. I have not been able to find Mike. I've thought about Mike a couple times because this guy was a college strength coach before, and he ended up in this local fitness center, powerlifting dude. And I signed up with Mike. It was $25 a session. My dad signed me up for 3 times a week, and for 3 years, I never played football, but I went to that fitness center from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. It didn't matter if I had practice. It didn't matter if I had a game. I would go there if I was tired or didn't feel like it. And Mike would just murder me. I remember like doing leg days and throwing up in the garbage cans and having other adults like looking at this guy like, you're going to kill this kid. But every single time that I went, I knew that I was closing the gap from that embarrassed kid on the bench press. And all I wanted to do was be stronger and more powerful than all of my friends, right? I was like, one day I will catch them. And I could tell like that's when I fell in love with fitness, because every time that I went to work, although you couldn't see the gains immediately, you could feel it start to happen, right? Like there's objective truth that you go a year later and you're stronger than you were. And I could start to see the changes in the mirror, and most importantly, my confidence shifted. So although I never played football in high school, by the time I was going to walk on at this junior college, my plan was to go out for the basketball team. And when the basketball coach told me that there wasn't a roster spot, and if I wanted to play basketball, I'd have to do it at another college, I had 2 choices. Either, try to play football like I did, or play nothing, sit out for half a semester, and then transfer somewhere else. And immediately when I got that news, I had a VHS highlight film of me playing basketball. My dad asked me what I wanted to do. I said, let's go talk to the football coaches. And so I knocked on the door. The football coaches answered. They're like, what do you want? I'm like, look, I haven't played football in 3 years, never played high school. I wanted to come here to play basketball. The coach said that there's no roster spots. I think I can be a pretty good wide receiver. And my last words as this introduction to the football coaches was, all I want is a shot. If I suck, you can cut me. And they're like, okay, they saw me. I was 6'5". It wasn't like I was, 5'3", and they're like, who is this kid? So they saw like my potential and just my size, watched me playing basketball. They could see the athleticism. And they're like, well, tryouts are at the end of July. We'll set you up. We'll get you a dorm room with some of the other football kids. And, we can't promise you anything. And I'm like, that's all I want. And that was my entrance back into football.
Right there.
Yeah.
Which then lead you into NFL.
Yeah. So I redshirted. For those of you that don't know what that is, it's essentially you practice, but you're not on the roster, and it doesn't count against your 4 years of eligibility. And so a redshirt year was spent at that junior college. Then I was a freshman the following year, which meant I had another year to play at junior college before most people would transfer to a Division I college. I read a newspaper article that was talking about this new coach at the University of Utah by the name of Urban Meyer. And in the article, he was saying that the talent on the team was great, except for one position group. And I remember the whole article was about the wide receiver core at the University of Utah not being good. And so I read this article. I called my dad. I'm like, I'm going to go talk to the coach. I had no idea who Urban was. So one weekend, I went back home. It was a 90-minute drive from the junior college to Salt Lake City. And I drove right up to the University of Utah, had no idea where I was going, found the football office, walked through the door. The secretary's like, can I help you? And I'm like, my name's John Madsen. I play at Snow Junior College. I'm thinking about transferring. Is there a wide receiver coach that I can talk to? And they're like, 1 second. I see this guy walk into a meeting room, poke his head in, and he says, hey, I got a 6'5" guy, says that he plays junior college and wants to transfer. And out comes Urban Meyer and the wide receiver coach, and they look at me. They're like, come into the office. And they're just grilling me, like, who are you? Like, what do you want? What's your story? And I'm like trying to like tell them that whole story about never playing high school football and all this stuff. And they watched my film and they're like, look, we're going to we're going to do some homework and we'll get back to you. And so that process went on for a couple weeks. And then I got a phone call from Urban, said, can you meet me at the offices? And so I drive up and I go into his office and he looks at me, and anybody that knows Urban, he's the most intense human being that I've ever met. And so here I am, this kid, and I had my hat on backwards. And, at that time, my tips were bleached and I had like puka shell necklace on, it was like 2003 era. Right. And, I'm sitting there with my backwards hat on. He's like, turn your hat around. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like very nervous. And he's like, so do you want to be a Ute? Which the Utah Utes, that's their name. And I was like, it's my dream. And he stands up, shakes my hand, and says, congratulations, we're going to enroll you. I'm going to walk you down to the strength room, and they're going to tell you your times to work out. And this is the summer, probably like June. And that was that. And I remember calling my dad so excited. I'm like, Dad, like I'm going to play for the University of Utah. We had tickets. I used to go to these games. Like that was the dream. And he's like, son, that's amazing. He's like, so are they going to pay for your school? And I was like, I didn't ask. He's like, what do you mean you didn't ask? Like, did you get a scholarship? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I told him what Urban did, shook my hand, and that was it. I was like, I was too afraid to ask. He's like, well, son, you got to ask. And so I worked up the courage in the next couple of days to go knock on the door. So I knocked on Urban's office door, and he looks at me. He's like, what do you want? And I'm like, well, I'm just wondering, Coach, like, do I have a scholarship or like, what's the deal? He's like, John, you've played football for about 10 minutes. I can't give you a scholarship. I'm going to give you my word, though. I'm going to give you a shot to be on this football team. And if you make the team and you contribute to the team, I mean, you're actually contributing out there on the field, I will then determine whether you can have a scholarship. And I'm like, cool. Shook his hand, got out of his office as fast as possible, and then did the walk-on thing.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
It's like a story. It's like a movie.
Yeah.
Everything comes one by one. After the NFL, you end up opening a gym.
Yep.
All right. Talk about that. But that story, man, like there's a lot of struggle there.
There is struggle. So when I got cut, it was I was in Cleveland. And it was going into my 4th season. And so I get cut, and I have a one-way ticket back home. And from there, there was this UFL league that was starting up. And the UFL was like players that had played a little bit, and a lot of the college players that don't quite make it into the NFL, like this brand new league, the UFL, they never had a season before. And so I don't get a call from another NFL team, but my agent calls me and is like, the UFL Las Vegas Locomotives has your rights. I'm like, well, what does that mean? Well, if you want to play, you'd be on their team. And I'm like, okay, how much do they get paid? And my agent said $80,000. And I hung up. I was like, don't come to me with that shit. Like, but previously, I was making about $400,000, right?
Annually.
And I'm like, 80 grand, like no way I'm strapping on a football helmet for 80 grand. And a couple weeks later, I have a couple buddies from my college team call me up. They're like, John, we're going to be on this Las Vegas team. They had never played in the NFL. They're like, you got to come play. This is going to be awesome. It'll be like college. And I'm like, okay. And I had a house in Arizona, Chandler, which is about 40 minutes from here. And ironically, the practice facility for the Las Vegas team was actually 30 minutes outside of Chandler, Arizona.
Okay.
And so I'm like, okay, I can live at home. I could go to practice. 80 grand is better than zero. And it's possible that, I ball out of control and then get called back up to the NFL. So I meet the coach of the Las Vegas team, and I end up signing, and I'm on the Las Vegas Locomotives. It's a short season. There's only 4 teams in the league. And there was a couple weeks before the season even started. They're like, oh, that 80 grand, the league doesn't have enough money to pay everyone 80 grand. So you guys are going to get paid 35 grand. And at this point, I just went through training camp. I'm like, all right, I'm basically playing for free this season. All good. I'm already committed. So long story short, I play that Las Vegas Locomotives season. And then from November, the championship game was on, I think, the day before Thanksgiving. So from the end of November all the way until May, my phone doesn't ring. So no NFL teams call me back. And I'm like, I'm definitely not going to play in that league again for 35 grand. There was a moment where we played a New York team, and I could hear like random people in the stands because there was probably a total of 100 people. So for me, going from stadiums full of, 75,000 people and a big spectacle, now I'm like playing in front of less than a high school crowd. The talent was great, but I'm like, it's just like, I'm done with it. And so as I'm training at a 24-hour fitness one day, I'm warming up, and I see this trainer training 2 kids that were in high school because they're wearing their high school football t-shirts, and he's running them through a bunch of speed and agility drills. And these kids are like, they remind me of me because they're so skinny and scrawny. And I'm like, damn, those kids just wasted 90 minutes doing stuff that's not going to make a dent in their athleticism or their mentality. And like a lightning of inspiration, I get this idea that I could go home to Salt Lake City and open up a gym and train these athletes and give them what I know they needed based on my own experience. And so that night I couldn't sleep. I wrote up a business plan. I didn't even know how to write up a business plan. And I'm like, I'm going to create this facility. I'm going to build this business. And very, very quickly, I sign a 5-year lease, buy a bunch of equipment. I remember being in a lawyer's room where they're asking me about LLCs and S corps, and I'm like, guys, I just want to train these athletes. I had no idea about business.
Yes, your acumen at that time, business acumen.
It was just football. Yeah, it was just football, right? And so I signed the lease. I bought about $100,000 and something worth of equipment. I had just turned 27, and all of a sudden I get a phone call from my agent, and my agent's like, John, the Detroit Lions want you to come out and try out. And I'm like, guy, I'm done. Like I'm done. I don't love football anymore. Like I'm over it. I'm starting the next part of my life. And he's like, don't burn any bridges, John. Like just go to this tryout. You never know. And so I fly out, and there's 5 tight ends that they're running through a tryout. NFL is cutthroat. So you get there, they give you some gear, some Detroit Lions gear, and then you go through their measurements. So they're, height, weight, they're measuring, how big your hands are from your thumb to your pinky. So you think NFL Combine, they're doing that with the tryouts, and we're, it's me and 4 other guys. And then you go in and they run you through a workout that can consist of whatever they want to see, right? And I remember being in a room that was, maybe half the size, a little part of the locker room. And the guys are nervous, right? Like this is a huge deal. Some of them have played a couple years like me. Some of them are, out of college, getting their shot. And I remember sitting down like this. All the other guys are like stretching and, getting ready for this thing. And I remember one of the guys asking me like, bro, like, are you going to stretch? I'm like, I'm good, bro. Like I'm over it in my head.
Oh my God.
So we walk out, we go to the tryout, and the first thing they have us do is run the 40. Like my forte, and I was fast. I was a wide receiver converted to tight end. And I watched these 4 dudes run. And before we got there, the GM was like, look, we're gonna do this tryout. You guys are gonna eat lunch, shower up, and then one of you we're gonna sign. The other 4 is gonna get back on a plane, go back home. Cool? Like that's the understanding. And so I watched the 4 guys run, and I'm like, damn it, they're gonna sign me. Because I knew I was faster, right? And I get down in the 40. I run, and the GM comes and catches me, and he's like, we knew you were fast. We didn't know you were that fast. They cut the tryout, send the other guys home immediately, and I'm up in the offices, and they want me to sign this contract. And I call my agent. I'm like, I just signed a 5-year lease on this building. I'm committed to opening this training facility. I don't really want to play football anymore. So the only thing that's going to get me to stay is if they write me a $150,000 check as a signing bonus to show me that they actually want me. Because I knew the backstory. There was a guy that they signed for a couple $1 million. He had turf toe or something. He wasn't going to be able to participate in the summer. In my mind, they wanted me to fill in and, be a body for them. And I'm like, they're not going to take some guy off the street and give him any type of signing bonus. That doesn't happen. So I go in there, I said, guys, like, I'm going to turn it down respectfully. I'm retiring from the game. And they're like, just come out to practice one more day. And so I'm like, all right, fine. I'll come out to practice one more day. And I went out to practice, and when I put my football helmet on that day, I knew it was going to be the last day that I ever did it again. That was the last time I was going to strap my chin strap up. And so at the end of that practice, I was like, thanks guys, but I'm officially retiring from the NFL. And I remember I had a couple buddies on the team. They're like, are you crazy, bro? Like, this is the dream of all dreams. And I just had no love for it anymore. And I was questioning myself. I'm like, bro, like, am I crazy? Like, what am I doing? And it was almost like I blocked that out of my memory for so many years. Like, I remember having a flight somewhere, and I had to stop in Detroit for a layover. And it was like 5 or 6 years had gone by, and it was like I didn't think about that moment it was like I literally blocked it out of my memory, right? And I'm walking through the Detroit airport, and I have this flashback of me quitting, essentially, on my dream. And I'm like, that was the wildest decision that I could even comprehend making. And so I retired. I opened up the gym. I trained thousands of athletes from 2010 to 2018. Business was saying it was a struggle would be, it'd be minimizing the struggle, right? I was very fulfilled because my goal back then was to be I remember writing in my notebook, I'm going to be the best athletic trainer in Salt Lake City. That was the extent of my goal at that time again. And I just devoured information. Like, I was a training geek. I loved it, but I had no idea how to create a business around it. So very quickly after I opened up that gym, 16 months later, my bank account was zero, literally zero. All the money that I had made in the NFL, zero. I was going to get evicted from that gym. So the Monday before eviction was going to happen, I had me, my dad, a couple of my buddies pulling out all the equipment we could, so that loading it into a townhome garage and then putting it online and selling it for pennies so that I could have food on the table. And like,
I get anxiety just thinking about this.
Yeah, bro. And
is this you? Nina was not there. Your wife's not in the story.
We were dating at this time.
You were dating. I remember that. I know that part.
Yeah, we were dating, and one day, and so there was a really dark period in my life when you go from being an NFL player to not being an NFL player. Like, I had no idea who I was, because up until that point, you go in anywhere, they're like, oh, that's John, he plays for the Raiders. Like, it's like, it sounds silly. It's true. But like the status, the badge and the status that you have as an NFL athlete, like, is an enormous thing that most people never get, and it's a high. You go in anywhere. You go in a restaurant, you want to get into a club in Las Vegas, you pull out your NFL card, you're like, yeah, I play for the Raiders. They walk you to it. It's like red carpets just rolled out to you all the time. When you're not an NFL player, light switch. It's like, oh, you used to play. Who gives a shit, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you played or it doesn't matter. And so I was, there was a lot of partying. There was a lot of alcohol. There was a lot of what I call drifting. I wasn't focused in business. It was just like, I was trying to numb the pain. And I had met Nineveh at that point, and she was a very successful news anchor and very popular. So instead of like me going out to dinner and signing autographs, like, we'd go out to dinner and people want to take pictures of her because her face is all over the city. And I'm like, damn, like, I'm at the lowest point of my life right now. And if I can pull this chick at the lowest point of my life, like, that's pretty good. But I was hiding the fact that I was basically broke. And so one day, she was over at the house, and I get ready, and I put one of my suits on that I would wear to the NFL games, right? It's like back in the day, the style wasn't like fit like I wear now. Yeah. Ultra baggy pinstripes, look like an Italian gangster, right? Yeah. And I put the suit on. She's like, why are you dressed like that? And I'm like, I have some job interviews. She's like, job interviews? Don't you own a gym? And so then I'm like, I just got to tell her the truth. Yeah, I own a gym, but like, here's the real situation. I'm going to go, but don't worry. I'm like, don't worry. Like, I'm going to go knock out, like, I got 3 job interviews. I'm going to go, like, it'll be fine.
Insurance, right? You mentioned
it's like insurance. It was like, one of them was
door to door.
Well, one was insurance, and then one was like selling office equipment, like printers and stuff. But they're like salesmen can make pretty good money
They do
doing that
six
stuff.
figures.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I go through like 3 job interview processes. One of the insurance companies for the job interview, they give me a box of note cards. They're like, okay, just start calling people. I'm actually an introvert. I do not like doing that shit. And I remember just like struggling through it. And I'm like, I'll do anything though. Like I'll do anything to, you know, not be a bum on the street. And so I got offered all 3 jobs. And Nineveh's like, well, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I don't know. You know, she's like, you're not a job guy. Like, don't like start another gym or do something, but you're not a job guy. And so she saved me from, you know, myself, because in that moment I would have taken the path of like, you know, the gym thing's not working. I'm just going to pivot and do another thing. And so very slowly I built up a clientele. I started over, went to a little tiny warehouse gym. Like, think of it like, you know, where Rocky would train. The weights were rusted, like the flooring was dirty. I bought the equipment from a guy that welded it together, so the pins were always like a little bit off. And kids would travel 2-3 hours to come work out of that gym.
Wow.
We had that gym, like we had a boom box for the stereo. There was no stereo
No
system.
speakers, no Bose or
Yeah, dude.
Sonos.
It wasn't even Bose or Sonos. It was like, you know, it's old school.
Old
like,
school.
Yeah. And the garage doors would go up. And at a certain point, we had so many kids coming in. Like we were doing warm-ups on the asphalt while the other kids were training inside. Some of my favorite memories in fitness were out of that gym. And there's actually guys that are playing the NFL now
That came from there.
that came from that gym. They were 8th graders, you know, and the mentality we built there, just being like, yeah, we like, it was almost to our advantage to be working out in a dog shit place like that. And so again, like that was fun, but it was not giving me the lifestyle that I ultimately wanted. So over that time, there was a certain time where kind of I got the inspiration again to go chase something big. For that, it was very dangerous in that situation where I was just going to let society tell me where my place was. Like, oh yeah, John, like you're just that middle class kid that grew up in West Valley City. Like that's you. And that was where I was close to just accepting that fact. It was like very, very close to just accepting that fact. And without Nineveh, I definitely would have just accepted it. And that would have been my life. But I got pulled in another direction. I started to believe in bigger dreams again, and ultimately started to dabble in understanding online marketing, and was one of the first people to take Alex Hormozy's gym launch course. And I learned enough marketing there where the light started to go on in my head. And at a certain point, it was like, okay, cool. My main goal is just to make $1 million. If I can make $1 million, like what other problem could I possibly have in life? And 2019-ish, 2020 actually. So I opened the business in 2010. The first $1 million year, essentially, we made $987,000. So we didn't hit the million, but it was 10 years. It was 10 years since I opened up that business to make $1 million in a year. And so I always tell people, like, I'm a slow learner, you know, like that path was a really long path, but luckily I stuck with it, and then ultimately did not submit to societal norm and just accept my place in the world. And when that happened, it's like limitation has been eradicated from my brain.
I think a lot of parallels, man. I'm hearing your story. I'm not an athlete, but stroke happened. I lost I lost my speech. Couldn't walk. My right side just gave in. Recovered. Moved my in-laws. My wife had a second baby. And finally, was John, my speech came back. I went back to my job. I was director of marketing for a tech company. They're like, hey, buddy, we're going to let you go. We waited this long. Maybe you're under stress here, so we're going to let you go. And I turned around to my boss, my mentor now, and I go, Alex, you know, F you. You ruined my life. I have a second baby. How could you do this to me? He goes, KB, there's the world out there for you. And you're going to do some quick special things. Trust me. I believe in you. And John, same thing. I sat there with my wife. I'm like, babe, I'm going for these job interviews. I'm bombing, VP, director of marketing. my speech is not there, my confidence is shot. And she goes, babe, the doctor told me you lost 10% of your brain from the stroke. You may not be the same person. I believe in you. Why don't you start real estate? Work for yourself. Do entrepreneurship. You're not a job guy. The way, I told you, same thing my wife said to me, Simon goes, hey, KB, you're not a job guy. Find yourself a business or get into sales. Sales connects you to a higher power, and self-development was my key. Something you shared in another interview that you, had the career, the consistent income. We talked about this back and forth in DMs. You did a Q&A on IG. And you were using those funds to do self-development.
Yeah.
Same thing I did, man. I signed up for all the coaching programs while my wife's making the money. Do you think that if she wasn't there, A, for that voice in your head, and B, that consistent income coming in for you to invest this money into you, where obviously it's paid off now, do you think you would be here in front of me right now?
No, not at all, man. Yeah, I mean, and that's where, I was very fortunate to have found somebody who was very successful and ambitious. And so her steadiness allowed me to falter, and find the way. And that just goes, it's a testament to her belief in eventually, this guy has ambition, and, he'll figure it out.
That's a good woman can change a man's life.
Unequivocally.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I really think that, we're on this rocket ship run in business, and the power that we have together, because we have different skill sets. We have both a championship mentality that we operate with, although it's different. We're like two sides of the coin.
Yes.
And I look at other businesses all the time, and it's like they're missing a half.
Yeah.
Right. And the whole is so much faster than if you're missing a half. And when I originated the gym and then transitioned online, she was always there through it, but it wasn't until she full-time came from a very high up position in a tech company and inserted herself into Superhuman that we really took off. And so it was like that other half of the coin is rocket fuel. And you see this in some businesses. Maybe it's not husband and wife, but it's, partner and partner that make that thing complete. But when it's husband and wife, it's powerful. It's so powerful. And, it's not that it's not challenging, but it's powerful and it's potent.
So I'm going to ask her the same question. She's coming up next. So my wife and I work together, partners. I'm sales, marketing, and I'm branding. She does operational, medical director. She's a doctor. Opposites come together, but we have sometimes some tension. Do you both sometimes have some friction? Hey,
100%. You can ask her. But yeah, there's tension, and there was more tension in the beginning. Okay. There's still tension though through rapid growth, right? Because you don't always see the problem in the same way.
Perspective.
Yeah. And the way we've had to grow through this process. I don't think that there's another path that makes you grow more than being husband, wife, co-founders on a rocket ship business, managing 100 employees and taking that thing on a ride. Like that, the growth that's required there is insurmountable, right? And you both have to be willing to be introspective, and it takes a lot of awareness. And I'd be a fool to say that we figured it all out, but compared to 3 years ago, we operate way smoother. And the next part of that is, what's really helped us is finding an elite executive leadership team to now, there's other voices, there's other seats at the table that can see things objectively, ask questions. And, a lot of times I realize now, like we were saying the same thing in a different way and not understanding what each other was saying. And
100%.
so, it's taken a lot of growth. And I think that, as someone grows, if you are in that dynamic, surrounding yourself with very competent people like that helps tremendously.
Buddy, mindset, manifestation, that part of your story, man, I'm going to pick your brain after the podcast also. Talking about that, how were you introduced to William? And I know he was a big part of that. And then self-belief, what year would that come and how did that go?
2018-ish, me and, Nineveh and I had our first, our first baby. And that was the point where it's like the rubber meets the road. Am I going to be this trainer who gets up at 5 a.m. and trains people until, noon, and then there's a little break from noon to 3, and then I come back from 3 to 9 and operate that way? And, I remember being in the hospital looking at this newborn child thinking, I can't do this the way that I'm doing this. And so around that time, again, that's 2018, so that's 8 years into business. There was a period there when I turned 36, I was doing a podcast out of my truck, and I remember having to take a $20,000 loan from PayPal because that was the only institution that was going to give me money. So $20,000 isn't a lot of money, but I needed it to keep the lights on, And I remember being so angry at myself for being like, how am I, like, I'm 36, got a new child, Nineveh's, holding the ship together. Like, I'm just pissed at myself. And so it was right around then, a little bit after that, I got introduced to William. And ultimately, we went out to dinner, me, my wife, him and his wife. And after talking to him, I immediately knew that up until that point, I didn't think I had a mindset problem, because I was like, dude, I never played high school football. I played in the NFL. Like, my mind's fine. It's not my mindset. And so I'd get irritated when anyone would say otherwise. And I was talking to William, and I'm just like, he was challenging me on some stuff. And I'm like, I got to work with this guy. And at the time it was 40 grand. And me and my wife had 50 grand in a savings account that was like, do not touch. Like, you're not going to get into that. No more programs, no more Tony Robbins program, no more nothing like that. We're not touching that.
That's my story. Go ahead.
We got a daughter now. And so when we left that deal, there was a couple other programs that were lesser. Back in the day, maybe 7,500 for like something, but the top package at that time was 40 grand. And when we left, we got in the truck, and Nineveh goes, if you're going to do it, you got to do it all. Like, you got to do it all. I'm like, well, you know what? That money's got to come out of the savings. Like, I don't care. Got to do it. And so I remember William driving up to the house. I wrote a check for 40 grand. It was in red ink. It was kind of like symbolism for me that I'm writing it in blood. Like, this is the time that it changes. And so I went through his coaching one-on-one, and I fundamentally changed the way that I view how reality works. Up until that point, I had no understanding of the unconscious mind or how powerful that was, or the limiting programs that were keeping me from reaching my fullest potential. And so that was a transformative experience for me, because it just unlocked parts of me that was locked up. And there was a lot of limitation around money. There was a lot of limitation in a lot of beliefs I had about how the world worked. And when we reprogrammed that, very, very quickly, the results started to show up. It was like, if I could explain, it was like before I had one foot on the gas pedal, one foot on the brake. It was like, when you do that, you go nowhere and you burn a lot of energy, right? Imagine a car. It's like the RPMs are revved out and you're not going anywhere. Very quickly, I felt alignment for the first time. It was like I had alignment inside myself, and that made all the difference. The way that I communicated changed. The way that I marketed changed. The way that I saw possibility changed. And all those things are very hard to like measure, but from an outsider looking in, it's like, oh, like there's an alignment that happened to me, and that just kind of lit the match. And very important though, people sometimes like, is it mindset or skill set? I had built up a ton of skill set around a lot of the things, but this mindset was kind of my limiter. Boom. A lot of people want to go the mindset route, but they have no skills. And it's like, well, you're going to have to take 5 years, 6 years, 8 years to develop the skill set that, you know, you're going to need to succeed. So it's both. It's not just mindset, it's not skill set, but in my experience, I had a lot of the skills. I was just not able to unleash them until my mind got fixed.
That's amazing. Do you have an example early on? Hey, KB, we had an issue where I sat there with Nina and we manifested an investor. We did this or something. An opportunity came after we wrote it down. Anything comes to your mind in that sense?
So, you know, I just got really clear on what it is that I wanted, right? And I think a lot of people, they're vague about their desire. They want to succeed. They want to make more money. But for me, like, part of the deal was getting very, very, very clear on what I actually wanted. And so for a long time, every morning I would write down like a statement that I would write over and over and over again. And it started like, I'm so happy and grateful now that I've achieved X, Y, and Z. Yeah. And looking back, like those things, like the goals that I had even back then were small compared to what we're doing now. So they evolved over time, but really what it is, you know, in a very simplistic explanation, when you're clear about what you're playing for and what you want, and you're 100% aligned to that thing, not 90%, not 98%, not 70%, not 50%, but 100% of you is aligned into the thing that you want, what happens is you start to filter out everything that's not that. And then opportunities show up that it's like your conscious mind gave your unconscious mind coordinates. Everything is now filtered. And then those things start to show up in your life. And that to me is really what manifestation is. And I think a lot of people, you know, miss it because they're not clear. And so they're not filtering everything that's not that thing. And they kind of want it, but they kind of don't. And then therefore it's not potent. When you get that extreme clarity, I just believe that the filters in your mind, like, just filter and stuff starts showing up. Crazy stuff. For example, the house moving to Scottsdale.
Love
right?
that story.
Yeah,
Share that with my audience.
moving to Scottsdale.
Please.
I remember going through this process and then just having this knowing that we had to move. And for many years, like, Nineveh would kind of test me and be like, you know, what do you think about moving to San Diego? Or what do you, and I would like, yeah, that'd be cool. But it's like, no, my home is Salt Lake City, like very stuck in that, like, this is where I'm going to live. My parents are 7 minutes down the road. Like, I like this place, you know? And I just had this knowing that the next evolution was going to take a different environment. And so I remember going through this little process, and I walked into the bedroom and I'm like, we're going to move to Scottsdale. And she's like, okay, like, you know, when? I'm like, by October, we're going to move to Scottsdale. I called up William and I'm like, I made a decision. We're moving to Scottsdale. We're going to move to Scottsdale in October. And he's like, awesome, you know? And this was right around COVID. It was probably April when I had this, like, you know, this knowing that we were going to move to Scottsdale. And then, you know what happened in COVID? It's like the world, you know, the world changed. Up until that point, I was kind of like, I had an anchor, which was the physical location of the gym. I had to be at that gym. Like, I couldn't move because the gym wouldn't run without me. And so when COVID happened, I remember Trump getting on and saying there, you know, for 2 weeks, we're going to slow the spread, and all the gyms were shut down. And so my gym was shut down. And I made a decision right then and there. I made a video for all the members that I had in my gym. I said, hey, I don't know how long this COVID thing is going to last. The gym shut down. I already have an online program. And so we'll rip all your contracts up. We're never opening the gym again. If you want to transition to online, I'm happy to fulfill that way. And if not, you don't owe me anything more. We'll just, you know, shake hands and that's it. And like 95% of the people just ripped their contract up. Everyone was scared. You know, they didn't know what was going on. So all of a sudden I didn't have that anchor as a location. And in that couple weeks, we started flipping through like Zillow and thinking like, oh, here's what you can get for X amount of money in Scottsdale, you know? And we didn't know anybody here. We decided to go take a look at some homes. And ultimately, we found a home, put our house up for sale. There was contingencies on contingencies. A whole lot of crazy stuff had to happen. And ultimately, the thing that now as I remember, the thing that actually happened was someone knocked on our door. And so when we made this decision, what prompted the actual move is someone knocks on our door and Nineveh answers and he says, I got a buyer. I'm a real estate agent. I got a buyer that wants a house on this exact street and nothing's for sale. And I'm wondering if you are interested in selling your house, because we tried to sell a house a year ago.
Didn't go.
And it didn't go.
Yeah.
We didn't even get close to the amount of money that we needed. And I thought that this guy was just like soliciting business. I'm like, I don't know if he's, serious or not. And then it was like, he says he has people right now that want to come see the house tonight. I'm like, well, yeah, we'll leave, you know? So we got our baby, we start driving around and we have cameras in our house. And so we were like, when are these guys going to leave? They were in our house for like 2 hours. It felt like we got a sleeping baby. We got to take her back. And so, they loved the house so much, they write an offer the next day. And the next day we're like, well, we got to go see if we can find a house in Scottsdale. So we got on a plane, and I remember taking a selfie video in the airport because nobody was flying. Nobody. It was like, are we crazy for even going out on this plane? And we got to Scottsdale. We were walking through a bunch of houses. We had to wear like rubber gloves and the mask and the whole thing. And it was weird, bro.
You were the realtor back then.
Yeah.
So before the Mets, I was a realtor full time. So I know that whole world. Like no one, you can hardly show houses if you do one person at a time.
Yeah.
So that time, it's insane how you found a house at that time. But go ahead, continue.
Yeah, no. And so we flew out. We found a house. We put an offer in, and then boom, boom, boom. We were in July before we could even think twice about it. It was like our house sold and we're in July 1st, and the goal was October, but it was, and that's what I mean. As soon as I decided, and I'm a believer that most people don't decide, they kind of want.
They're unsure, or they're not confident, or they're scared.
It'd be like, I'd like to move to Scottsdale.
No.
It'd be like,
It'll be
90% of me wants to move to Scottsdale, 10% doesn't.
Yeah.
Right?
No.
Never works.
No.
I'm like 100% alignment, and the decision to Scottsdale was made, and then reality shaped.
John, and I told this on the DM. That story was it was. I was moved. I ran with my phone, and I showed my wife, Osama, watch this, and even she was floored. Like John, how do you do you think that's God/universe? Because that's a whole other controversy, right? They say law of attraction. Or do you think that's the RAS kicking in? How do you think that whole thing happened?
Yeah, the reticular activating center, I mean, that's a scientific way to kind of prove it. Quantum mechanics, everything's a wave until the observer. And so I think people have understood this for a long time, and they've tried to make science explain the phenomenon, right? I believe that we all have divinity inside of us, and we're powerful creators. I don't know how it works, but I believe that we create reality, and by our thoughts, by our decisions. I'm a big fan of like Neville Goddard, The Feeling is a Secret, and like that type of teaching.
Bob Proctor.
Yeah. And a lot of the guys are saying the same stuff in a little bit different ways, but I'm just a believer in that. We're all powerful. We're all powerful creators, and I think that we really have the ability to shape reality in a much bigger way than we know. The other day, I when is this gonna air? I don't know if I can say this or not.
About a month.
Okay, cool.
Or 2 months.
I can say this then. So I tell my team, Nineveh and I are talking, and she's like, you should get Urban Meyer to speak at our event.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, yeah, we should do that.
The event is coming up. You have Ed Meyer that coming.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And so I don't like to act like Urban's like one of those figures. Like I have he's changed my life in a lot of ways. I knew if
Respect.
I reached out and asked him, like, I could probably get him. He's also very busy. And I also don't want to ask favors, you know, from people like that I know. And Milet and the other guys, it's like
Yeah, you're
you
paying
reach
them.
out to their agent,
Yeah.
there's a speaking fee, and, you
That's
know,
it.
you ink the deal. This is a little different. And so I'm like, yeah, I should do that. And then I start thinking about it. I get on a call the other day with my team and I'm like, hey, like I'm thinking, do we have space in the lineup? If I was to nail down Urban, I think it would be just the lineup of all lineups. And they're like, oh my God, that would be awesome. I'm like, okay, cool. Sit on it for a second. 3 hours later, phone rings. It's Urban. I haven't talked to Urban in 2 years. Like, not like 2 years would probably be the last conversation. It's Urban. I answer it. He starts talking to me. He's essentially wants me to do something for an upcoming book. And he's like, you're the first person I called. And I was like, Coach, this is so crazy. I just, you know, we have this big event coming up. Here's the premise of it. And I literally just told my team that I was going to reach out to you and see if you'd be open to speaking. He's like, John, what's the date? And so I tell him the date. He's like, I'm like October 2nd or 3rd. He has the big college football contract that he does. And he's like, I'm open October 2nd. He's like, I'll put you in contact with my team, set it up, deal's done. And I just like hang up the phone and I'm like, that shit happens to me all the time, bro. And it's like, I feel like I'm almost walking through this simulated matrix sometimes where when you're aligned and you make a decision on something, it's like the universe conspires and it's the wildest thing. And so I'm still wrapping my head around my belief system on how it all works, but I know it works. And so that's enough for me.
Dude, man, that is so impactful. So one of my watchers, listeners, listening to this right now, myself, John, I have a vision. I want to open 10 clinics, wellness clinics. Now you're saying, KB, if you have doubt, that I maybe do it, maybe I'm good enough, maybe I'm not, it won't happen. But if I say, John, I will be opening 10 clinics by 2028. That's it. Right? Just declare it, number one.
Yeah, being very clear and being
The goal,
aligned.
the specific goal, what I want to get. Not 7, not 6, that doesn't matter.
I think it's got to be big enough, right? Like it's got to be big enough to where what you're doing now, it's not going to be in a linear thing. And so I think like, you know, if it's 10 and that's like, okay, cool. Like that's a huge deal. Like, how am I going to do that? I think you gotta pick something that is outside the linear thinking of like how you would go about it. It's something like you want it, but you don't know how to do it. And so in some ways, like you are going to have a little bit of doubt. Like it's not abnormal. So it's hard to, you know, answer your question and be like, you should have no doubt. Because I think that if I was really being honest, there's a lot of things that happen and there was doubt.
Hiccups, things happen.
But I was aligned and that's what I wanted. And so I had more courage than I have doubt. And that's what I would tell somebody. I would say that your courage and faith has to outweigh your doubt. It's okay to have a little bit of doubt, but you have to take the steps, right? Like if you decide that that's the thing that you're going to do, then you have to, even though you don't know A, B, C, D, E, F, G, how you're going to do it, you have to start walking in that direction and then things start to happen. It's like you'll meet somebody who knows somebody who then has done this thing, who introduces you to somebody. And before you know it, it's like the things, like it starts to roll. And I think that if you don't commit to it though, then it's a kind of, you know, it'd be nice someday. And I think most people live their lives in,
That way.
it would be nice someday. And then it never happens. And then they're like, manifestation is bullshit. It's like, well, you know, it's because you're living in this world of like, it would be nice instead of like, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to be a professional athlete. I'm going to build a business. I'm going to make $1 million. I'm going to make $100 million, right? Like it evolves. But it's like when we decide something now, it's like, we're going to do this. Even if there's a little bit of doubt, we're walking towards that thing and bam, stuff happens.
Do you pray? Take traditional praying, go to church and...
So, not a lot now. My relationship with all that, I grew up in Utah, so I had a lot of Mormon friends. And I was constantly tried to talk into going to church. Love my Mormon friends, And so for 35 years of my life, though, any religion whatsoever, I was like, nah, like, don't want to hear it. Don't want to hear it. It's like, I'm good. So pretty agnostic, not atheist, just very agnostic. Like, I don't know how to explain this stuff. And so at about 35, I read the whole Bible. First time in my life. We started going to a non-denominational Christian church out here. Great pastor. Really went consistently for a couple years. Got to the point where I got baptized, which was an amazing experience. And I fully believe in God. And
Higher power,
yeah. Fully believe in God. I don't love the messaging of the church always. And so for me, I'm like, it's more a relationship with that higher power, God, and that's the communication more so than...
That's the portal you tap into
Yeah.
instead of going to a church or a mosque or a synagogue.
Yeah, and a lot of people that are more religious would probably disagree with my take on it, because if you read like Neville, that's kind of contradictory. Like, he uses Bible verses and stuff all throughout the thing, but like a devout Christian is like, no, like that's
They're against
not,
it.
Against 100%.
A lot of Muslims are against it, and a lot of Jewish friends of mine are like, no, dude, you to God. You go to...
Yeah. And so I think a lot of people, for better, like, I'm not here to judge them. I think that
different way.
they believe that God is going to fix their problems or take them to their destiny. It's like, if it's up to God, it will be, right? And I think that a lot of people have so much faith in that. I, on some levels, think God's like, I already gave you everything you need. All you got to do is do it.
And believe it.
And believe it. And so I come from this understanding that it's a co-creation.
Yeah.
God's given me everything I need to go do this thing, but he's not going to just make it happen. I think too many people sit there and pray or hope I walk.
To external force and say, hey, God, please help me with ABC.
Yeah. And so, like, I think that they're like, I have faith, but I would argue that I have more faith.
Yes.
Like, my faith is action. Theirs is words. So just my take. I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but it's worked very well for me.
Same page, my friend.
Yeah.
2 more questions and I'll let you go. Your daily routine for your manifestation. And after that, I'm going to get Superhuman. How did Superhuman come about? Where was it 4 or 5 years ago? Where is it going now?
Yeah. So back when I was really like trying to get clear, my daily routine was different. It was more robust. It was like, I think I sent you the thing,
the manifestation,
the document. Yeah. So it's like,
and thank you, by the way.
Yeah. I would spend the first like 15 minutes reading, and then I would write this vision statement out, and then I would write 20 I am statements, and then I would listen to some music and meditate, right? And kind of feel gratitude, like try to get in the feeling of gratitude for my life. And I did that very consistently for a long period of time. In fact, that vision statement that I wrote, I actually recorded in my own voice. And when I'd work out, I'd have the earphones, and it was about 4 minutes long.
On a loop.
And so it would just be on a loop. And it's crazy how many, like, I went back the other day because I looked in my garage, and I'm like, I have a Lamborghini, a Ferrari, a Rolls Royce, and a G-Wagon in the garage. And I'm like, I know I was talking about cars in this thing. And in the recording, it's like, I have an 812 super fast, talking about like I already had it. And it's like, whoa, like I almost forgot, but it was like so programmed from the repetition that crystallized, and some things like, are a little bit different than the way that I said it back in 2021. But that's how I had to tap in, and I had to tap in with repetition. And I think because I had more doubt back then, I had to beat that doubt with repetition and positive affirmation and just feed myself constantly. Now I feel like I'm tapped in, and I don't necessarily need to spend all that time doing that every single day. It's like I'm very clear on the goals and targets that we have, and I'm living that daily as opposed to like
every day going back.
Yeah. And so I think that if someone's stuck, or they're just starting, or they're wondering if this is for real, or if they really could do it, going back to the basics. And I'm sure it would be even more powerful if I still did it, but it's like if you're stuck and you're not where you want to be, that's where to start. Now I'm operating with this kind of limitless understanding of possibility. I don't necessarily need to reinforce it to myself all the time.
Love it. Thank you for sharing that, my friend.
Yeah.
Superhuman, my friend. What a company. What a logo. What a message you're doing. I love everything about it. I've been following you guys very closely. Quickly, I'm gonna share my law of attraction story. My wife, I emailed your wife, was like, love your wife, the female entrepreneurship, mothers, right? And she would send me DMs at night. Hey, they share her speaking, and she's like, babe, it would be nice one day you can interview this couple. This is years ago. So full circle, manifested is a great opportunity. If you put your mind to it and you believe in it, you take the proper action, you can manifest your reality. Superhuman, my friend. So the physical gym was going away. COVID is happening. When did we come up with this concept?
Superhuman started as Athletic AF. That was the name. That was the last name of my gym, and the legal name was Athletic and Fit, but Athletic AF meant something different to me. It's kind of edgy.
Yeah.
And we built kind of like a cult-like following for a minute, like in the online world. Like, people love those Athletic AF shirts, and we got to the point where $2 to $3 million. Like, we're in business.
Yes.
It's not playing business. It was like, put the lemonade stand away, and here we are.
Making moves.
And Nineveh at this time was not fully involved in the company. She was an executive in the tech company. She's like, you can't name it Athletic AF. Like, that's not a mainstream. Like, this is bigger than that. So a lot of times I get the credit of being a visionary. Like, she actually operates with crazy vision, and she's a creative as well. And so she actually came up with the concept Superhuman. She's like, you got to change the name and like the logo, like all this stuff. And so 3 or 4 years ago, at some point, we shifted into the Superhuman entity and name. And that was a creation that was essentially, she has her signature all over it. So the concept was the same as the first concept, which is online fitness coaching. Superhuman, though, is that next evolution. It's a premium brand in online fitness. We're best in the world at transformation. Our clientele is very well defined. It's high achievers, executives, entrepreneurs who are super busy building epic stuff, that have put their health on the back burner, and we show them that they can have both. You can have an epic business and you can have $1 million body at the same time.
Six-pack.
Right? And we really lean into the vanity aspect of it. It's like, cool, like, you work out, but we want our people to look elite at the same time, and be unapologetic about it. And so that, with her ability to create systems that scale, has been just an epic ride. And like we mentioned, we're two sides of that coin, and the company has grown tremendously. We're on track for over $50 million this year, and there's no end. There's not that's not like, oh cool, we're gonna chill there. Like, we're gonna blow past it. Like, 9 figures is the goal. This is inevitable, So it's a lot of fun because I believe in the mission. I love the mission. I live the mission, and I get to share what is a part of me into the marketplace. And it's just been an epic ride, man. Our company is, not just me and Nineveh. We have epic leadership, and we have world-class coaches. We have applications lined up out the door for people that want to work for this company because they see the cult. It's got a magnetic culture. And so we're gobbling up talent. If you're listening to this and you have talent in you're an AI genius or whatever you are, apply to work for this company, because it's a rocket ship and the culture is so much fun to be a part of.
I stand by that. I've been on your guys' trail for about 2 years now, and I saw the recent podcast we've done over here with your coaches, reunion of a both sitting here. Your team, I mean, the way they communicate, the mindset. I mean, you guys have this epic team. I think the future is bright, my friend. I can't wait to see what's going to happen. You guys both throwing an amazing event pretty soon. That's for members only of Superhuman, right?
Yep, members only. Yep, we got an amazing event. I just dropped that Urban was going to speak there, Ed Milet, Jesse Itzler, but even more than that, it's not a speaker event, really. It's a celebration of all the superhumans that are in our community that, we honor and recognize Hall of Fame members and stuff like that. So we do one big annual event that's coming up in October, and it's gonna be great.
That's amazing. John, what a journey, what a movie. I mean, it's like the movie's not even done yet. It's just first started for you guys.
That's right.
Can't wait to see what's going to happen. John, final words, man. Someone's out there. I'm an entrepreneur, 43 now, started years ago. Got to train, I work out now, eat healthy because I have to. But I'm doing 100 things at a time. I have 2 daughters at home, stroke survivor. How important is it for high-level people to have their health, their wellness in line?
I mean, to me, it's the most important thing in the world. I'm gonna misfire the quote by Socrates, but he says, "What a shame it is for a man to grow old and not know the beauty of his own strength and power." You see all the old statues of the Greek gods and whatnot, and it's like they're magnificent men, and from a male perspective, I think there's just something fundamental that's built into our DNA that we want to be strong and powerful and capable, and fitness serves that purpose. It serves that thing that makes us feel whole. Now, providing for our family and making money also does, but what happens is people prioritize that part of it for good reason, right? You need your kids to eat. That's more important than having a vein crawl up your bicep sleeve. It's like that's more important than being lean and mean to a certain extent. However, you can have all the money in the world, and if you don't have your health, what do you need? You don't care about the money, you want your health. And so I think that there's this balance, and that's why we cater to that specific audience, because we're not telling them that they need to prioritize their health way over their business. We understand, I understand running a business is hard and it takes time, but you can do both at the same time. And if you're going to be excellent and you're really going to be respected and you're really, really going to feel proud of yourself, the zeros and tons of zeros in your bank account is only one aspect. If you look in the mirror and you're disgusted by what you see, you're only half winning. And so I empower people to lean in unapologetically to excellence in business, excellence as a father or mother, excellence in your body. And I just think that once you do that, it just gives you an edge against any of your competition, and it's something that you owe yourself.
I agree. I stand by that. Where can we find you, John?
Superhuman_John on Instagram is probably my most active social profile. So I am active on there, and the website suprahuman.com if you want to know more about what we do. If you're a high performer that needs to get in shape, there's no place that does it like we do. So those would be the 2 places.
Awesome. John, thank you so much once again. This means the world to me. You probably are, I've done 80 guests so far, my friend. You are probably you and your wife next are probably the ones I'm most excited for.
She'll completely outdo me, so I'll happily be number 2.
Oh, that's awesome. Perfect, my friend. Thank you for coming on, John.
You're welcome, man.
God
Thank you.
bless you, brother.
Yep, bye.